This is what Christmas at the White House looks like. 51 trees, 10,000 butterflies, 132 rooms transformed. And before any of this can go up, the president is waiting on this special delivery. 30 days before Christmas, a horse-drawn carriage pulls up to the North Portico. 2 Clydesdales, coachmen in top hats, and on the deck, an 18-foot con-color fir from Michigan that's about to become the most famous Christmas tree in the world. But this is no ordinary tree. Every year, the National Christmas Tree Association holds a competition among growers across the country, and the winner earns the honor of supplying the official White House Christmas tree. This year, Horson's Tree Farms in Sidney, Michigan took the prize, which meant that back in September, the White House grounds superintendent traveled 650 miles to inspect the tree personally, checking its shape, its fullness, its height, before signing off on the selection. By November, the fir was cut, loaded onto a flatbed, and began its journey east to Washington. When the carriage finally arrives at the North Portico, the First Lady is waiting. Melania Trump circles the tree slowly as cameras roll, inspecting it the way her predecessors have for over a century. This is tradition, and every detail matters. "Beautiful," she says. With that single word, the clock starts. Because this tree isn't just a decoration, it's the centerpiece of a transformation that will turn 132 rooms into a winter wonderland. And the staff has days, not weeks, to make it happen. Once the tree passes inspection, workers carry it inside to the Blue Room, one of the most iconic spaces in the executive residence. But there's a problem that presents itself every single year. The chandelier hangs too low to accommodate an 18-foot tree. So before the fir can take its place, the White House engineers have to unbolt the chandelier from the ceiling, carefully lower it, and store it until January. Only then can the tree go up. While engineers work on the Blue Room, 150 volunteers are already at work at an off-site staging facility somewhere in Washington, preparing the thousands of decorations that will soon fill the residence. And the scale is massive. 51 Christmas trees spread throughout the building, 75 wreaths with classic red bows, more than 700 feet of garland, over 2,000 strands of lights, 25,000 feet of ribbon, 2,800 gold stars, and more than 10,000 butterflies. All of it has to be designed, prepared, transported, and installed before the doors open to 50,000 visitors expecting a home transformed for the holidays. Not just for one family, but for the entire nation. 28 days before Christmas, the volunteers arrive. While the first family heads south to Mar-a-Lago for the holiday, 150 strangers from across the country descend on Washington. Florists, teachers, veterans, retired decorators, all of them selected from over 12,000 applicants for the chance to decorate the most famous house in America. On their first morning, they gather at an off-site staging facility somewhere in the D.C. area, the location unpublicized for security reasons. The White House is stacked floor to ceiling with the accumulated decorations of dozens of White House Christmases past, ribbons in every shade of red, ornaments wrapped in tissue paper, garlands coiled and waiting, and somewhere in the back, the components of a 120-pound gingerbread house that hasn't been assembled yet. After signing non-disclosure agreements and receiving their work aprons, the volunteers are split into teams with names like Sprinkle and Twinkle and given their White House room assignments. For the first 2 days, they never set foot in the White House itself. Instead, they prepare, tying hundreds of bows by hand, attaching wire to the backs of ornaments so they'll hang properly, measuring and cutting garlands and ribbons to precise lengths specified in the binders the First Lady's team prepared months in advance. Every detail has already been planned. The volunteers are just there to execute. But there's one piece of the transformation they never touch. The gingerbread house tradition started back in 1969 when assistant executive chef Hans Raffert built a simple 2-foot German A-frame for Patricia Nixon, decorated with gumdrops and candy canes and weighing just 40 pounds. Over the decades, The houses grew larger and more elaborate until Roland Messner took over in 1992 and transformed them entirely. Villages with hills and reindeer, replicas of presidential childhood homes, marzipan sculptures of first families and their pets. His 1993 creation for the Clintons, nicknamed the House of Socks, featured 22 tiny marzipan versions of the family cat hidden throughout the display, and visitors would crowd around the state dining room trying to spot them all. This year's gingerbread White House follows the modern standard: 120 pounds of dough baked in large sheets and cut with a bandsaw, windows made from gelatin so the light glows through, and an interior view of the yellow oval room complete with a fondant Christmas tree, a gold and crystal chandelier, and a pale pink sofa. The construction takes roughly 250 hours spread across 2 months. Marzipan figurines sculpted in early fall, gingerbread baked in November, and final assembly in the days before Thanksgiving, when the operations crew carefully transports the finished structure to its permanent home on a 1902 mahogany Eagle console table in the state dining room. A White House electrician installs the interior lighting, which is the only part of the entire display that isn't edible. It is edible, Melania Trump's spokesperson told reporters this year, but you can't take a piece with you. Presidents, apparently, haven't always followed that rule. Roland Messner once caught Bill Clinton sneaking a bite. 25 days before Christmas, they finally enter the White House. And if you've never seen the executive residence during a transformation like this, picture a construction site crossed with a movie set. Ladders everywhere, boxes stacked in corners, people climbing and hauling and draping while the sounds of hammers and vacuum cleaners blend with holiday music into a kind of controlled chaos. In one room, a team strings lights on a 12-foot tree, while in another, someone carefully repositions a 19th century candelabra that hasn't been moved in decades. And through all of this, a question lingers that most visitors always ask: who pays for it? The answer is more complicated than you'd expect. The decorations themselves are funded primarily through private donations. The First Lady's office solicits contributions, and those funds cover the ornaments, the ribbons, the trees, and the thousands of items that fill the residence each December. But the 120-pound gingerbread house in the state dining room is made by White House pastry chefs on government salaries. The engineers who remove the Blue Room chandelier are government employees, and the electricians wiring 2,000 strands of lights and the security team screening 150 volunteers all draw on federal resources. So when you see the finished product, 51 trees glittering under crystal chandeliers, 10,000 butterflies cascading through the Red Room, a gingerbread White House so detailed you can peer through its sugar windows into a replica of the yellow Oval Room, remember that it took an army to build it. Some were volunteers who paid their own way to Washington. Some were career government employees who served 6 different administrations. And some were pastry chefs who spent weeks sculpting a replica of the building they work in out of flour, butter, and 120 pounds of gingerbread. The theme this year is "Home is where the heart is." But making the White House feel like home requires more than heart. It requires a century-old tree that's become the beating heart of the presidential Christmas itself. A few hundred yards south of the White House, on a patch of grass called the Ellipse, stands the National Christmas Tree. Not the same tree the First Lady inspected at the North Portico. Not even on White House grounds. But for over a century, the tree Americans most associate with the presidency at Christmas. The tradition started in 1923, when Calvin Coolidge lit a 48-foot balsam fir shipped from Vermont. The lower 10 feet of branches had been damaged in transit, so workers tied on cut branches from a local evergreen to fill the gaps before the 3,000 schoolchildren sang carols, the Marine Band played, and Coolidge pressed a button that blazed the tree to life with $5,000 worth of electric lights, a small fortune at the time, donated by the electrical industry. A century later, the ceremony has evolved into a primetime television event with celebrity performers, massive crowds, and millions watching at home as the President and First Lady take the stage and press the button that illuminates the tree against the backdrop of the Washington Monument. Getting to that moment has never been simple. In 1970, the tree's train derailed twice en route from South Dakota. Then high winds knocked it over the weekend before the ceremony, and days after the president finally lit it, the bulbs started exploding one by one. A fireproofing liquid applied to the sockets had caused electrical shorts. In 2023, just 2 days before Biden's ceremony, a cable snapped in 30-mile-per-hour wind gusts and the 40-foot Norway spruce crashed into the ground in broad daylight, still wrapped in lights, glowing on its side until a crane arrived to lift it upright by sunset. The Park Service released a statement that night. As the saying goes, the show must go on. 2 days later, it did. 19 days before Christmas this year, the 103rd ceremony went forward without disaster. The tree, a 35-foot red spruce from the George Washington and Jefferson National Forest in Virginia, which is different from the White House Christmas tree, stood wrapped in 80,000 lights on the Ellipse as country singers Brett Young, John Party, and Warren Ziders performed for the crowd. The Beach Boys took the stage, decades removed from their California surf anthems, but still drawing cheers. And when that moment came, President Trump stepped back and let the First Lady do the honors. Melania pressing the button that sent light cascading up the branches while cameras flashed and the Washington Monument glowed behind them. The tree will stay lit through New Year's Day, sunset to 10 p.m. on weekdays, an hour later on weekends. While thousands of visitors walk the Ellipse to see the 56 smaller trees representing every state and territory arranged in a circle around it. But perhaps the most remarkable moment in the tree's history came in 1941, when Franklin Roosevelt decided to move the ceremony from the Ellipse to the White House grounds for something more homey, a celebration closer to home. Workers transplanted 2 oriental spruces from the tennis courts to either side of the South Lawn fountain, and everything was ready for a warm, intimate Christmas Eve. Then on December 7th, Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. There was talk of canceling the ceremony entirely, but Roosevelt insisted it go forward. On Christmas Eve, 20,000 people passed through military checkpoints to gather on the South Lawn, and as twilight settled into evening, 2 figures appeared on the South Portico: President Roosevelt and, standing behind him, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, who had crossed the Atlantic in secret to coordinate the Allied war response. The tree they lit that night still stands on the White House grounds, over 80 years later. And if you look closely at its branches, you'll find something most visitors never notice: a small red light hidden among the needles that isn't decorative at all. To this day, when Marine One approaches the White House after dark, pilots use that light as a directional landmark, guiding the president home. But to the surprise of many, the White House is not the president's home for Christmas. Instead, the first family heads south. On Christmas Eve, Marine One lifts off from the South Lawn and carries him to Joint Base Andrews, where Air Force One is waiting. And a few hours later, the plane touches down in Palm Beach, a very different kind of home. There are no volunteers, century-old traditions, or chandelier removals here. Instead, there's a 110,000 square foot estate built in the 1920s for the wealthiest woman in America, fully adorned with gold leaf, Spanish tiles, Italian marble, Venetian silks, a 100-foot swimming pool facing the Atlantic, and a living room with 42-foot ceilings. And now, 300 paying club members who might bump into the president at the buffet. Christmas Eve at Mar-a-Lago follows its own traditions. Around 10:30 p.m., the president's motorcade pulls up to the Episcopal Church of Bethesda by the Sea, a Gothic revival building 400 yards from the ocean where Donald and Melania Trump were married in 2005, and where their son Barron was christened the following year. The congregation knows what to expect when the Trumps attend: metal detectors at the entrance, Secret Service agents in the pews, purses searched under White House tents pitched outside, and when the first family enters, a standing ovation. The service runs about an hour before the motorcade returns to the estate, and Christmas Eve becomes Christmas Day. This is when the president makes the most important call of the holiday. From a decorated office at Mar-a-Lago, American flag behind him, video screen in front, Trump connects via satellite to American troops stationed around the world: Marines in the Caribbean, Army units in Kuwait, a Navy ship in the Gulf of Aden, an Air Force base in Missouri, a Coast Guard station in Alaska. For 30 minutes, the president talks to service members from all 5 branches, thanking them for their service, joking about equipment, and asking about their families. But the weight of the moment isn't in the jokes, it's in the contrast. On one screen, the President of the United States sits in a gilded estate where membership runs upward of $1 million. On the other screen, a 22-year-old sailor sits on a ship thousands of miles from home. Back at the White House, the gingerbread house gleams in the state dining room, while visitors take selfies with the 18-foot tree in the blue room. And somewhere far away, a soldier who hasn't hugged their kid in 8 months watches a video feed flicker on a screen, wondering what's under the tree at home. For the troops on that call, home is wherever they can find a signal strong enough to see their families' faces. For the 150 volunteers who spent Thanksgiving tying bows and wiring ornaments, home is wherever they left behind to be part of something bigger. And for President Trump, his home is where he continues his holiday festivities as he leads the country into the new year. The scene outside Mar-a-Lago on December 31st looks like a red carpet premiere crossed with a security checkpoint. Cars lined up under white tents to be screened by Secret Service agents. Guests ferried in by bus from off-site parking because the roads around the estate are closed. Palm Beach police estimating over 300 people passing through before midnight. The event is black tie, and the guest list mixes political allies with celebrities, billionaires, and club members who pay hundreds of thousands of dollars for the privilege of attending. Elon Musk arriving with his son X on his shoulders, Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha, Senator Ted Cruz, boxing promoter Don King, WWE executive Triple H, and somewhere in the crowd, probably Vanilla Ice, who has performed at multiple Mar-a-Lago New Year's Eve parties over the years. And getting in is not cheap. In 2017, members paid $600 and their guests $750. By 2023, Trump himself joked that scalpers were getting $10,000 outside. After his 2024 election victory, prospective members reportedly overbid the estimated $1 million initiation fee by hundreds of thousands just to get in. But not every New Year's Eve at Mar-a-Lago has been a celebration. On December 31, 2020, Trump was absent from his own party. He'd boarded Air Force One that morning without explanation and flown back to Washington, and the January 6 hearings would later reveal why. While his guests counted down to midnight in Palm Beach, the president was at the White House, consumed by something other than celebration. Most years, though, the party goes exactly as planned. Champagne flows, cameras flash, midnight arrives, and the president rings in the new year surrounded by billionaires and celebrities and paying members in a ballroom built by the wealthiest woman in America nearly a century ago. And then January comes. At the White House, the decorations come down. The 18-foot tree in the blue room is hauled out the same way it came in. The gingerbread house is dismantled, and 10,000 butterflies are packed into boxes and returned to storage. And the chandelier goes back up. The 150 volunteers who spent Thanksgiving weekend tying bows have long since returned to their own homes. The troops who appeared on that video screen are still deployed, counting the days until their rotations end. And the red light in the branches of the 1941 tree still blinks on the south lawn, guiding Marine One through the darkness. And somewhere, in a state that hasn't been chosen yet, another tree is already growing. Bye for now.